one-term member of Congress. Now, you know, for a number of years in Vermont and around the country, I talked a lot about our nation moving toward an oligarchic form of society. And there were people who were saying, what does oligarchy mean? What is Bernie talking about? Well, thanks to Donald Trump, we now know what oligarchy is about. When Donald Trump was elected president, and I know it seems like a lot longer time ago, but it was only 100 days. When Trump was elected president, he had behind him three of the wealthiest people in America. You remember who those guys were? He had Elon Musk. You know Elon. And he had Mr. Bezos next to him. And he had Mr. Zuckerberg next to him. Three wealthiest guys in America standing right behind the president. But that wasn't enough. Behind those guys, you had 13 other billionaires that Trump had nominated to become the heads of major federal agencies. You know, right here in Pennsylvania, back in 1863, at that terrible Battle of Gettysburg, where 20,000 Union soldiers were either killed or wounded. A few days later, as you all remember, President Abraham Lincoln came to the battlefield. And he looked at that terrible battlefield where just a few days ago, so many people had died. And he said in so many words, what we believe in is a government of the people, by the people, for the people. And what Trump has made perfectly clear, he doesn't hide it. I got to give the guy credit for that. That right now we have a government of the billionaire class, by the billionaire class, and for the billionaire class, and we are not going to accept that. You have an obscenity in the wealthiest guy in the world, running all over Washington, D.C., firing thousands and thousands of dedicated federal employees. At a time when the Social Security Administration doesn't have enough employees right now to service the seniors, they want to throw away, they want to discharge thousands and thousands of people at the Social Security Administration. At a time when the Veterans Administration is understaffed, they want to lay off 83,000 employees at the VA. Well, I don't care if you are Republican, Democrat, or Independent. We stand with the veterans of this country. And we're not going to see a deterioration in their health care or in the benefits that they receive. But it is not just oligarchy that we are dealing with today. We are looking at an unprecedented attack on the foundations of American democracy, and under Trump, a movement toward authoritarianism. You know, the founding fathers of this country were nobody's dummies. You all recall that they had fought and led the fight against the autocratic King of England, the most powerful person on earth at that time. A guy like Trump who thought he had the divine right to rule. And what these guys did, founding fathers, they said, you know what? We see what the autocrat in England is doing, and we're going to have a constitution which provides for separation of powers. Right? You all remember that from history class? So you got an executive branch, the president, a legislative branch, Congress, Senate, and House, and a judiciary of federal courts. And the reason we have that separation of powers is precisely to prevent what Trump is trying to do today. He is usurping the powers, the appropriation powers of the United States Congress. Unbelievably, when a court decision comes down that he doesn't like, he says, we're going to impeach the judge. But it's not only Congress and the judiciary he is going after. Again, in an unprecedented way, he is going after the media. Now, this is a guy who throughout his career has leveled the most savage, vicious attacks on his opponents. Everybody is crazy. Everybody is awful. Everybody is disgusting. Everybody is terrible. And yet, when the media criticizes him, he wants to sue them and shut them down. So we say to Mr. Trump, if you can't accept criticism, get out of the political process. That's what democracy is about. And let me talk a little bit about something that the media doesn't talk about and we don't talk about in Congress at all. And that is the reality that today we have 60% of our people living paycheck to paycheck. We have more income and wealth inequality that we have ever had in the history of the country. And as a result of this disastrous Citizens United Supreme Court decision, we now have a corrupt campaign finance system in which billionaires in both political parties are controlling the political and legislative agenda. And I think this is an issue, whether you're a Republican, progressive, conservative, whatever you may be. Nobody thinks that American democracy is about Elon Musk contributing $270 million to elect Trump and then becoming the most important person in government. So, brothers and sisters, when we talk about the future of America and our political system, at the top of our agenda must be the need to end this disastrous Citizens United Supreme Court decision. And move to public funding of elections. Now, let me tell you something which you're not going to hear much about in the corporate media, and you're not going to hear much about in the halls of Congress. And that is that today, the average American worker in real inflation accounted for dollars is earning less than he or she did 50 years ago. Now, you know why the American people are angry? They're angry because they're looking around them. They're seeing a huge increase in worker productivity. And yet all of that wealth is going to the people on top, not to the working class of this country. And we are here tonight, we're here today to say loudly and clearly that we demand an economy that works for all of us, not just the people on top. And by the way, we need a Democratic Party which makes a fundamental choice. And that is, are you on the side of the working class of this country or not? There are millions of working people whose families used to vote Democratic, and they look and they say, why do we have the highest rate of childhood poverty of almost any major country? Why is it that I'm working longer hours for low wages? Why is it that I can't afford health care? Why is it that I can't afford my rent or my mortgage? Why is it that I can't afford to send my kid to college? And the Democratic Party is finally going to have to say, we stand with those people. We're prepared to take on the greed of corporate America.